Hi there, I'm Chris and welcome to The Better Life. In this Better Fitness video, I'm going to be talking about what type of cardio you should be putting into your training program. Now, this isn't actually about what type of exercises you should be doing, such as rowing, cycling, running, or aerobics, in a fitness class or in your living room. Those are types of cardio exercise. But what we're going to be talking about here is how you should be doing those. This is about whether you should be doing steady state cardio or HIIT cardio. Now, this is a hugely debated subject in the fitness industry. To be honest, steady state cardio is the older dog. It's the one that we all know. It's the one that most of us love to loathe. It's been around forever. It's really understood as the way that we would improve our health, improve our fitness, and lose weight. HIIT training, on the other hand, it has been around for years, but it really gains a lot of traction in the fitness industry. It's very marketable. It has a lot of claims attached to it that it has benefits over steady state cardio. But the question I'm going to be answering in this video is whether that is true. Does HIIT training have benefits over steady state cardio? So what is steady state cardio and what is HIIT? Steady state cardio is kind of what we all understand as cardiovascular exercise. It's that old dog that we all hate, or most of us hate. It's running at a moderate pace, at a moderate intensity for a duration of time. So throughout a 20-minute run, we would keep and maintain a moderate pace of intensity, and that means that we can go from start to finish. HIIT, on the other hand, it works a bit differently. HIIT is called high intensity interval training, and the clue is in the name, but throughout that duration of exercise, instead of maintaining a steady state of intensity, we hike it up to high intensity at intervals throughout that duration of exercise. So for example, again, if we're running, we might do 2 minutes at a steady state, and then we would hike it up for an interval of, say, 30 seconds, where we increase intensity. We have to go max out. So we take it for a jog for 2 minutes, and then we hike it up to a sprint for 30 seconds. Now, steady state cardio being the old dog and HIIT being the new kid on the block, obviously, the magpies that love shiny things in the fitness industry, they're all fixating on HIIT. There are many advocates for HIIT training, and there are claims rooted in studies that claim that HIIT has additional benefits to steady state cardio. HIIT has benefits over steady state cardio. The question is that true? And that's what we're going to look at in this video. Okay, so to understand a little bit more about this, we need to understand what the benefits of these are. So let's start with steady state as kind of a baseline of understanding how cardio work benefits us. So steady state cardio is what we all really understand is how we can improve our health, improve our fitness, and lose weight. We know that when we get on a treadmill, we can go for a 20-minute run 3 times a week, and perhaps we can start increasing that time or that frequency of training, and we're going to see benefits to our health, to our fitness, and in fat loss. Now, how does this happen? We need to understand how, if we can understand whether HIIT training has benefits over it. So the way it works is that essentially whenever we push against the thresholds within our body will adapt. It will trigger an adaptation so that our body has a better capability for those activities. When we push ourselves in cardio, we're obviously targeting our cardio system. That's essentially our heart. So when we do cardio exercise, our heart adapts. It's going to do this because it's a muscle, and when we work a muscle, it becomes stronger. Now, our heart, the walls of our heart will thicken, our heart will increase in size, and this means that it is more efficient at distributing blood around our body with every beat. Now, another effect of cardio training is that obviously our heart increases in size. Now, this helps as well because the blood that comes back into our heart from our body, is pulled together in the left ventricle, and as that ventricle is bigger, it's able to collect more blood together at one time and pump out more with each beat. This is one reason why, if you're on a good training cardio program, you're going to notice that within a couple of weeks even, your resting heart rate would have decreased. The reason for that is because your heart has adapted. It's better, it's more efficient, it's stronger, it's bigger. It can perform that work of blood distribution more efficiently. It doesn't have to work so hard, it doesn't have to work so fast, so our resting heart rate decreases. It's better at pushing blood around the body. There are many reasons why it needs to do this. Part of it is that our muscles need to contract, and in order to contract, they need fuel, energy. This comes from calories. One of the ingredients, I guess you could call it, in this energy production, in fueling our muscles and their contractions, is oxygen. There are 3 different energy systems in our bodies. We're going to talk about 2 in this one. And the first one is in relation to steady state cardio. We use our aerobic energy system. Aerobic means with oxygen. So that is why when we are running for that bus, we breathe more deeply. We need to take in more oxygen and get that into the blood. And that blood is then pumped by our more efficient heart eventually around our body. This is partly about delivering energy, fuel to our muscles so that we can keep running, so that we can keep our legs moving. Now, a fact about the aerobic system is that in its production of energy for our muscular contractions, it prefers to target lipids, fats that are stored in our body. As a fuel source for energy, it will go after our love handles. So in an attempt to create enough energy to keep us running, it's going to work our heart, distribute blood, deliver oxygen, and it's going to target fat as a primary source of fuel for us. So that's the aerobic system, and this is primarily what we use in steady state cardio. So that's essentially how steady state cardio works. It makes use of the aerobic energy system. It pushes our thresholds of fitness and develops our heart strength and our heart size. And that becomes more efficient in delivering ingredients for energy production, for the contraction of our muscles. And what the aerobic energy system will target more favorably is our love handles, essentially. So HIIT, on the other hand, works quite differently, and this is why it's claimed to have certain benefits over steady state cardio. Whereas steady state cardio is using our aerobic energy system, HIIT does do this. It does work within the aerobic system because we are breathing in oxygen, we are making use of energy production with the use of oxygen. That's during our recovery periods. But what is it that happens in these high intensity intervals? We actually flip over into a whole different energy system. Now, as well as our aerobic energy system, there are 2 others, but we're only going to talk about this next one, the anaerobic energy system. Now, this is an energy system that doesn't require oxygen for the provision of energy for muscular contraction. When we up that intensity when we're sprinting from one point to another, we're not able to take in as much oxygen as we need for those muscular contractions. These high intensity intervals actually flip our body from using the aerobic energy system to the anaerobic energy system. Now, what this is doing is it's not using oxygen. It can't utilize fats as an energy source for muscular contractions. So it actually targets glycogen that's stored in our muscles. It's ready to go. It's a faster burner. And it's more readily available for these sprint intervals. Now, one of the downsides of this energy system is that it can't last as long. The energy is quite quickly depleted, and that's why we would end up feeling like fatigued, and we have to go back to an intensity where we can start breathing in oxygen, making use of the aerobic system to keep going. That's why we either have to stop our exercise or at least lower the intensity. So that's how HIIT really works. We're bouncing between the use of the aerobic energy system, and then we're hiking up the intensity, switching to that anaerobic energy system, and in that we are targeting a different energy source. But the other thing is that we're also using a different muscle fiber. Now, as well as having 3 different energy systems in our one body, we also have different muscle fibers within our muscles. Now, the aerobic system makes use of our slow twitch muscle fibers. These are not as strong, they're not as powerful, but they can go for a longer period of time. They are therefore endurance movements and prolonged movements. The anaerobic system actually fires up different muscle fibers known as fast twitch muscle fibers. Now, these are more powerful. They contract more powerfully, they've got more strength, and they are able to deliver a bit more oomph and a bit more speed. These are actually the muscle fibers that we work during resistance training, such as weight training. Now, it's these muscle fibers that can actually break down and develop and grow and get stronger. And again, you have grow. So it's a very different physiological event that goes on in our bodies when we're using the anaerobic and pushing the threshold of our anaerobic energy system. The downside of that is obviously that it doesn't last as long. It might be more powerful, but we have to come back to that aerobic energy system and start relying on the intake of oxygen and utilizing other energy systems. So that's why we end up using high intensity intervals. We can't maintain that intensity throughout the duration of exercise. But HIIT training is very good because it engages with the pushing the thresholds of that aerobic system, and then it hikes it up in intensity. It uses the anaerobic energy system to do this, but then once that becomes too much, we push as hard as we can and we tax those muscles and what we're capable of, and then we have to come down into that recovery period once more. So that's how HIIT training works. That's how it uses our body. It makes use of different energy system, and it makes use of different muscle fibers within our body. So HIIT training very definitely works differently to steady state. But is it true that this high intensity interval brings about additional benefits than steady state? There are 3 main selling points that you will undoubtedly hear about HIIT training, and we're going to go through those and then see if they're warranted. Now, these selling points are rooted in studies about HIIT training. You will hear from HIIT advocates, or magpies I'll call them, new shiny thing. You will hear that HIIT training burns way more calories than steady state cardio. So if somebody does 20 minutes on a treadmill, they won't burn as many calories as somebody doing 20 minutes of HIIT training. Now, that's true. The other claim for HIIT training is, or selling point I should say, is that steady state cardio is often accused of being responsible for the loss of lean muscle mass. So it is said that if you do too much cardio, you are going to start tapping into your lean muscle mass as an energy source. So you will actually see your toning deplete, and you would end up losing your gains from other workouts in the gym. It is said that HIIT training is not going to be responsible for that. At least it's less likely to have you lose lean muscle mass. But as you now understand, HIIT training does actually engage with those type 2 muscle fibers that are responsible for growth. So it does tax those muscles. It does give them a workout, which is not going to be so much responsible for having them deplete, obviously. The third main selling point of HIIT is what's called an afterburn effect. Now, this is otherwise known as excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, or EPOC. Now, so it's said that even after finishing your session, you can get yourself home and start watching a movie on Netflix, and you will still be burning calories because your body has worked so intensely that it's still fat burning, calorie burning. Now, this is true. It is shown in studies that HIIT training, that high intensity training, is going to produce an EPOC, an afterburn. So here are the facts. Steady state cardio, that old dog of exercise, is going to benefit our health, increase our fitness. It's going to help us lose fat. In fact, because it's using the aerobic system, it actually favors targeting fat stores. And when people are arguing about HIIT or steady state, you will often hear the defenders of steady state saying, yes, but my time on the treadmill more effectively targets my fat stores. And that is true. That being said, we've got HIIT, which operates at a higher intensity. So it makes use of both the aerobic energy system and the anaerobic energy system. In doing that, it does burn more calories throughout a workout. And essentially, fat loss is about energy balance, daily energy balance. So if we create a greater calorie burn and a calorie deficit, we are going to see weight loss. So HIIT does have all the benefits of steady state cardio, but it does, because of this high intensity workout, it does burn more calories in a session. It is not responsible so much for any perceived lean muscle mass loss, and there certainly is a proven afterburn effect, an EPOC, which is related to HIIT training. So it would seem that everybody that advocates for HIIT training over steady state cardio might just have a point. HIIT training will make all of those health and fitness benefits. It will result in fat loss, but we also have the fact that in less time, or the equivalent time, you can burn more calories. You are most likely not going to lose any lean muscle mass. In fact, because you're firing up those type 2 fibers, you would actually, especially beginners, see muscle toning. And then we've got selling point number 3, which is this afterburn effect, this idea that we can burn calories even after we've finished our session. So those are the 3 main selling points of HIIT, which you might be aware of. And to be honest, I have to give a thumbs up to all 3 of them. So it might seem that HIIT is actually a better alternative to steady state cardio. Now, just in case you think that I'm making a case for HIIT because I'm biased, I will tell you I am biased. As a personal preference, I prefer working out with a HIIT session in my training program. I'm not somebody that's going out to build loads of muscle, so I don't care about the whole lean muscle mass loss thing, but I just love the way that I can work out with HIIT. It's interesting to me. I love those high intensity intervals. I love seeing if I can get to the end of them. I love to feel like I've really pushed myself. I find steady state cardio to be, for me, boring. I don't find it to be so invigorating either. Now, I'm acknowledging that bias because I want you to know that I'm actually being very objective, and you will see that in the next section when we go over a few numbers. Because as I am saying that there are 3 main selling points of HIIT, and I'm thumbs upping each of them, I don't want you to think that I'm just being biased. In fact, it was my realization when I was prepping for this video that I thought, hang on a minute, I'm being biased here. I'm showing my personal preference. And like many people that you will see on YouTube doing their videos, they all talk about the benefits of HIIT. And I'm wondering if many of them have really thought about why, or whether they've just read a lot of magazines that are spouting lots of these study stats. Because we can raise some very legitimate questions. So let's really tear this apart. Point number 1, selling point number 1. Does a HIIT workout burn more calories in, say, 20 minutes than steady state? Yes, it does. But what a lot of people fail to actually specify is how many more calories. Now, what I have seen is that advocates for HIIT will say something very outlandish, like 60 minutes on a treadmill will burn 300 calories, 30 minutes of HIIT will burn 500. Wow, that's almost twice as many calories in half the time. That's fantastic. I haven't seen those numbers represented with any specificity, to be honest. Point number 2, lean muscle mass loss with steady state as opposed to HIIT. I have to say, HIIT training, it does fire up those type 2s, so there's a point to be made there. However, it is a fact that there are many people that would defend steady state as essential to a good program. In fact, especially even if you're a bodybuilder, you would want to be doing some cardio and experiencing fat loss. Now, there are many reasons why HIIT training would not be so suitable for someone looking to build muscle mass and then go through a cutting phase. And a great explanation of this is actually by James Grage. He's one of my favorite fitness YouTubers, and he speaks on the subject of HIIT versus steady state cardio. And he makes some great points there as well, actually, about HIIT training and diet. I'm actually going to link that video because I found it very useful. He's very much a bodybuilder fitness YouTuber. That's not my thing, but I love the information he gives out. So do check that out, especially if you want to understand how HIIT training could influence your diet, especially if you're carb cycling. But I'm digressing anyway. So yeah, point number 2. Steady state cardio is not actually, you have to take that to a real extreme and dig down into the depths of your body's energy stores to start having your body reach out and pull your muscles in to fuel a run. You have to really take it to an extreme. You can get away with 2, maybe 3 good cardio sessions without seeing that lean muscle mass. It's kind of a moot point, really. But HIIT certainly is not going to have you pushing endurance to such a degree that your body starts tapping into your lean muscle mass. So again, yeah, that kind of is a good point for HIIT on the HIIT side. So point number 1, we have to question really how many calories do we burn in a HIIT program compared to a similar steady state session. Point number 2, is that whole lean muscle mass argument really a strong one? I wouldn't say it is, although HIIT training is going to be responsible for helping you achieve at least initial toning as a beginner. Point number 3, the afterburn. We need to ask the question of, we might be firing up our metabolism and burning calories after our session. Every HIIT advocate will tell you that you are burning calories even whilst you're on the sofa, but how many? What is this? Is it 2 calories per hour for 14 hours? Because that's pointless. That doesn't really make a difference. So we have to actually look a bit more specifically into it to understand whether there are benefits to HIIT over steady state. So let's get into that. So I really want to look into this a little bit more specifically and try to compare like for like and get an understanding of what exactly we are burning when we are doing either a steady state cardio session or a HIIT session. Now, the fact is that when we are calculating calories, we can't actually just say that 30 minutes on a treadmill is going to burn this amount of calories for anyone and everyone. Now, when a lot of, especially HIIT advocates, are trying to compare how many calories you would burn in either or session, they might make a lot of statements about in 30 minutes or 60 minutes on a treadmill, you might burn this amount of calories, whereas in a 30-minute HIIT session, you would burn this amount of calories. Now, essentially, they are plucking those figures out of the air. But as I've said, we can't actually calculate calories for anyone and everyone and like for like, because for example, somebody who weighs less than the person on the treadmill next to them is going to burn fewer calories on a 30-minute run than the larger person next to them. So we actually cannot throw these figures out there. We just cannot. So the best that we can do, and again, this is really working out estimates, is use formulas to calculate how many calories we're actually likely to burn within any sort of exercise or activity. So there's a calorie counter that I used, and I used it so that I could link you to it as well. So it's readily available on the internet so that you can have a look at it, have a play around, get some insight. It's good to understand these things. But it asks for more specific information, such as gender, age, height, and what was the other one? Weight. So it takes into account all of these personal stats that we have that are unique to us. And it would then use those to formulate how many calories we are likely to burn in any given activity. So this is a much more reliable way to gain a picture of how many calories we are going to burn in an exercise, such as cardio on a treadmill or HIIT on a treadmill. So what I've done is I have calculated how many calories I am likely to burn using my stats and my information, how many calories I am likely to burn in a HIIT session. Now, again, I'm linking you to this so that you can have a play and figure it out for yourselves. But it's a much more reliable way to gain a picture on comparing steady state cardio to HIIT cardio. The way I did this is I created a HIIT session consisting of a 2-minute recovery intensity. That's a 6 mile per hour run. and the high intensity interval is made up of a 12-mile-per-hour run of 1 minute. So I have a 2-to-1 ratio, recovery to work ratio in my HIIT session, and that's of a 6-mile-per-hour run and then a 12-mile-per-hour high intensity interval. Now, again, just for reference, so you can get a bit of a picture, I actually found a video on YouTube of somebody running 12 miles per hour on a treadmill. Now, have a look at that. I imagine it would cause a lot of people to get high intensity. So have a look at that, figure out if that would sort of suit your high intensity interval. But it's a good reference for this anyway. So my workout, my HIIT session, is made up of a 2-minute interval at 6 miles per hour and a 1-minute interval, high intensity, at 12 miles per hour. I've times this by 7 so that I have a total of 21 minutes as a HIIT session. Okay, so let's go over the numbers here. Now, according to me, and I'm going to cheat and look at my whiteboard here, okay, for my stats, for my age, my gender, my height, and my weight, it is calculated that my recovery and my high intensity interval, both put together, I would burn 54 calories. So we then times that by 7, get to the end of my HIIT session, and I would have burned 378 calories. So in that 21-minute HIIT session, comprising of those intervals, I would burn 378 calories, according to a bit more of a specific calorie burn estimate. Okay, but with HIIT, we have to take into account that awesome afterburn effect. So how do we do this? Well, the studies show that there is a 14% epoch, okay, so or afterburn, as we are calling it. Now, in the video I mentioned from James Grage, you know, he accounts for the afterburn as well, and I've seen that a lot of people seem to be calculating this with regard to as a percentage of the amount of calories you burn during the workout. I actually think, from what I've been looking at and research, that that's wrong, and we should be calculating that 14% in relation to our resting metabolic rate. What I mean by that is that as we would usually burn calories after the gym at rest, the idea with the afterburn, as far as my understanding, is actually that it's our resting metabolic rate calorie burn is increased by 14%. I believe that's the best way to look at it. From what I've looked at, from what I've read, that's actually how we should interpret that. So I've calculated my calorie burn with reference to my estimated formulaed resting metabolic rate, and in percentage to that. So my afterburn, and I calculated it for, I think it was 14 hours, which is kind of roundabouts where a lot of people say that the epoch would last after a session. My afterburn calorie count is 139 calories. So what that is saying is that during my HIIT session of 21 minutes of that, jog sprint intervals, I would burn 378 calories during the workout. I would then burn, afterburn, an initial 139 calories. Now there we have an answer as to how many calories we're burning after the gym while we're watching a movie. And it's not as sky high as what a lot of the HIIT advocates would have us believe. You know, you're burning all these calories after you've gone home from the gym. Again, the question was, how many calories? Is it even relevant? It turns out that 14 hours, according to my resting metabolic rate, would be 139. That's a packet of crisps. It's not loads significant, but it is a third of what I've achieved in my session. So that's cool. So that totals up from 378 plus 139, and I come out as burning, from 121-minute HIIT session, 517 calories. That's awesome. I also did the same for a 21-minute steady state cardio session. So I'm trying to compare like for like here, and according to my own stats here. So what I did, was 21 minutes steady state on a treadmill. Now, whereas my HIIT session was made up of a recovery 6 miles per hour, which is just to get my heart rate down, and then 12 miles per hour for high intensity. Obviously, the steady state, I can go in between that as a moderate intensity that I could maintain for 21 minutes. And so I set that at 8 mile per hour run throughout the steady state cardio session. So my 8 mile per hour steady state cardio session came out as burning 364 calories. So when you look at that, at first glance, we've got 21 minutes of a HIIT session burns 378 calories, and then we've got a 21-minute 8 mile per hour steady state cardio session burning 364 against 378. That's not a huge difference, actually. So it could be said that, it's kind of like, meh, what's that? For the intensity that you put yourself through with HIIT training, that's not a huge difference. But the afterburn actually in the total does clock that up to 517. However, the same studies, and a lot of people, HIIT advocates, tend to leave this out. But the same studies that say that there is an afterburn effect with HIIT training do say that there is an afterburn effect with steady state cardio as well. And this makes sense because anytime that we are exercising and pushing our body's thresholds, increasing our fitness, our body does need to return itself to a pre-exercise state. So there is actually, again, not that the HIIT advocates sort of say this, there is actually an epoch, an afterburn that you get with steady state cardio. It's just that it doesn't last as long and it's not so intense. So whereas HIIT training would, say, give you an afterburn of 14, 24 hours, some people even say 35 or 48 hours. I've seen all those references. For 14% increase in calorie burn. Steady state cardio, as reported in these same studies, is regarded as increasing a calorie burn by 7%. But it lasts maybe 1 to 3, maybe 5 hours. So that's not so significant, but it is there nonetheless. So I'm going to add that on to my steady state cardio calorie burn. So I calculated that again with reference to my resting metabolic rate, and I came out with a whopper of 15 calories afterburn. Okay, so it's not as impressive as the HIIT afterburn, granted. So there we have 364 calories during my 21-minute session, plus 15 calories, boom, afterburn, and that comes out as 379 calories. Okay, so let's compare that. Everything totaled up, like for like, 21 minutes of HIIT against 21 minutes of steady state cardio. HIIT comes out with 517 calories. Steady state comes out with 379. That is quite a difference. Okay. But I have to be objective here, and we really have to talk about some other aspects of training program here. And the race still is not over. It may seem like the hare is about to win the race, but again, still slow and steady, the tortoise, I think it's going to give the hare a run for its money. Let's look at the fact that our training program is made up of different elements, and we have to factor in duration and frequency of those elements within our training program. Now, again, James Grage makes a really good comment on this, specifically about diet. So do check out that video especially if you're carb cycling. There's something to learn there. But we have to talk about how often we can do HIIT throughout a week and how often those sessions can last. Now, a lot of these studies, they did involve longer sessions with more elite athletes or more experienced exercisers. But even the HIIT advocates would say that because of the intensity and because it takes so much out of you, because it plugs into that anaerobic system and there's a lot of recovery, especially there, that needs to take place, you shouldn't really do too many HIIT sessions throughout the week. So when we look at that, most HIIT advocates would even say 2 to 3 sessions a week, especially for beginners, is kind of where you want to top out your frequency of HIIT sessions in your weekly training program. So there is another point as well to make about that. That's frequency, but then we look at duration. And a 20-minute HIIT session is intense. It is going to take it out of you. I do know this because my fitness classes that I run at the gym where I work, they are 30-minute sessions, and within that 30 minutes I have an easy warm-up and a cool down and stretch. So we have 20 minutes, and I guarantee you there are some very experienced people, they're very fit people, and by the end of 20 minutes, when we've really gone for it, that is enough. That is a real good push. So we've got their frequency. Even HIIT advocates would say 2, maybe 3 sessions a week. Then we look at the fact that we kind of top out with HIIT sessions as being 20 to 30 minutes long. It's hard to progress in that. It's hard to push that further. We can't really increase the frequency or the duration. So let's say we do 2 HIIT sessions a week, and we keep that at 21 minutes for the sake of keeping it a bit simple. As simple as this can be, it's quite complicated. But so all we have to do then is take our HIIT session that we've worked out and times that by 2. We're going to do 2 of those a week. That means that our weekly calorie burn through HIIT cardio workouts comes out as 1,034 calories per week. So if we are only doing HIIT cardio twice a week for 20 minutes, which is enough, then your calorie burn throughout that weekly training period is 1,034. That's taking into account the session and 2 afterburns there. Okay, so then we look at steady state cardio. Now, here's the thing, is that even a beginner, even a new gym goer or somebody that's just started to run around the block, they can do 4, maybe 5, even 6 or 7 20-minute cardio sessions a week. It's quite manageable, even for somebody who is perhaps not even running, but they're working their heart rate at that moderate intensity and therefore achieving those fitness and health benefits and the weight loss. It's quite manageable for even a beginner to go out 4, 5, 6 times a week, and 20 minutes is pretty much the base level that you want to be doing cardio for. So 21 minutes being our steady state cardio example, that really is kind of beginner level there. So we can progress in that. We can easily take that to 30 minutes in terms of duration, and we can easily multiply that throughout a week to be 4 times. So 4 times a week at 30 minutes. So leaving it at 20 minutes, I'm sorry, I'll backstep there. Let's take the one that we've calculated, and we've got 379 calories per 21 minutes, 8-mile-per-hour run. Okay, let's times that by 4. It's easy for a beginner even to times that by 4 and do 4 sessions a week. That takes our weekly calorie burn from steady state cardio to 1,516. Now, that means that in terms of, we're only mid-range there in what we can achieve in steady state cardio for a week, and we are burning 1,516 calories. We are pretty much at the top of our threshold of what we should do in terms of HIIT sessions, and we are limited by 1,034 calories burned per week. Of course, then we haven't even then upped our cardio steady state sessions to 30 minutes 4 times a week, which is an easy progression for somebody that's a month into a cardio program. And let's not forget that more of those calories burned during that week are targeting our love handles, our fat. So we're going to lose weight from that. So you can see that actually, although 2 sessions of HIIT is going to burn more than 2 sessions of steady state cardio, we kind of top out on what we're able to do in HIIT sessions throughout the week. We are much more able to progress with cardio steady state cardio in a way that means that our weekly calorie burn from cardio exercise is going to it's well on top. It's well on top of what even beginners in fitness can achieve. There are some other aspects to consider here as well. I would say that we should always have balance within our training program. So if you want to go and do 4 sessions of HIIT a week, you really are going to start compromising your resistance workouts. I would always say that you should have resistance training in your workouts, even if you're not in your weekly training program, even if you're not looking for muscle mass. It's really important that we establish strength and power within our bodies. So with HIIT taking so much out of our type 2 muscle fibers, it's depleting our glycogen stores, it's needing time to repair. Working that into a training program, a weekly training program where we have, say, 3 resistance workouts, that's going to be more difficult. We're going to start tripping over the need for recovery and the risk of overtraining there. That being said, we are more able to have a 3-day-a-week resistance training workout and easily build in 3 cardio sessions. In fact, it's when we're talking about 21-minute cardio sessions on the end of any resistance training workout, that's fine. We're using a different energy system. We are not using the same muscle fibers. So we can put that at the end of our training program when we've done resistance. So we do resistance workout, then we chuck on 20 minutes of cardio. That's almost a cool down. And yet this is easily manageable. So when we actually look at it, yes, technically HIIT will burn more calories. It will minimize the loss of lean muscle mass. It does have an increased afterburn effect. But when we really crunch down the numbers and then we take into account our other training goals and building in resistance workouts more effectively, allowing recovery time and the frequency and duration for which we can implement cardio workouts into our weekly training program, actually there are some real drawbacks to HIIT. And I would say that in terms of getting a balanced training program where you are addressing all aspects of fitness and different components of fitness, HIIT is actually going to be a compromise or risk a compromise to your resistance training gains. And let's not forget that it does really just tax the body. It does fatigue the body. There is a risk of overtraining if you do too many sessions throughout the week. So really, to be honest, when it comes down to it, talking about balance in a wider training program, HIIT really isn't it. Okay, it's I would say there are benefits to HIIT, such as it does accelerate fat loss, and calorie burn. It is a good way to make the most of a smaller amount of time if that's all you can manage. Say you're busy one week. It does help you to perform, depending on how you're doing HIIT, it does help you to develop more explosive movements and engage with your body in terms of more powerful movements and quick movements. It could be said that somebody running for a long time on a treadmill is not in tune in a neuromuscular sense and the CNS sense to sprinting. And, part of that is about muscle memory and learning movements. But it's kind of good to have those moments where you know how to sprint and you know how to really push yourself in an intense interval. So I would say, to be honest, try and mix it up. HIIT is cool. It has great benefits. It will train your body to move in a powerful sense, to use your aerobic and then your anaerobic system in a great way. And in terms of being functional for life, that's a benefit. But you don't need to do either or. There are benefits to each in terms of duration and frequency of training and mixing in other training components. I would say come back to the steady state cardio and work in HIIT when you're short of time or you want to really accelerate some powerful movements or use of your muscles. There are loads of benefits to just mixing it up. The last thing I would say on this is that it doesn't matter what training system we are looking at or what component of fitness. What matters is whether you are going to adhere to it and involve yourself in your training program. If you hate running on the treadmill and that is what your program is made up of, then you're not going to stick to it. You're not going to get the most out of having a training program or your exercise sessions. If you really hate HIIT, but you've got a personal trainer like I used to be, who was always saying, oh, you've got to do HIIT, it's got all of these advantages, afterburn, la 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 la, all these fitness industry magpies, shiny thing, then, but you really don't respond well to those high intensity intervals and you dread it and you want to, you choose to stay home and watch a movie, that doesn't work. So the most important thing about making up a training program is figuring out what you love to do, what activities make you feel energized and enthusiastic. So in that, again, I would say variety is the key. Work out sometimes with resistance training, go for strength sometimes and then periodize that, get into maybe building up a bit more muscle mass or, playing with your sets and reps. I would say the same with cardio. There are benefits to doing either or, but if you really hate one, then that certainly shouldn't make up the entirety or the majority of your program. Work to what you enjoy doing. That's going to benefit you in motivation and ultimately your success and your health and your fitness. Okay, I really hope you found that useful. I know I've gone really quite in depth with this. I'm open to any comments or questions or criticism. This is something we can all learn about. There clearly isn't loads of really solid information there, just lots of grand claims. So I'm really happy to discuss this, but I hope you found it useful. I hope it helps you to put together a program that really guarantees your success. I guess I would just say that don't listen to all of the headlines. When we really do crunch the numbers, there's not loads of a difference. There are lots of factors to take into consideration, and really it should just be about what you enjoy, what doesn't cause injury or overtraining, and what sets you on fire for a lifestyle of health and fitness and well-being. Okay, thank you so much. Please subscribe, please like the video, please do comment, and please get along to thebetterlife.co.uk and register on that. Get in touch with me. I'd love to hear from you, and I will speak to you soon.